Okay. Well, tonight I'm just enthused about where we're going to be going here. So what I want to do is I want to bring over a browser. And what I'm using is the Google Chrome browser. You guys probably use whatever browser you want, but I happen to have my kind of bookkeeping file, snapped right here, so I can just go right to it. And what I'm going to want to do is open up a file, and there it is. Okay. So what I've got here is a kind of a dummied up file that has typical, several months worth of accounting. Could even be a full year. That looks like just several months of someone's accounting. And you can see how we've organized it now, kind of not necessarily by date, but we've organized it by the description. And so what do we got? We got 598 rows of code that are mostly, I would say almost all are going to be expenses. We've already taken the income out, and we've already organized it in the format of date, amount, tax code, keyword, and description. That's really important because that's how the robot likes to feed. It wants to eat a file that has date first, amount second, tax code, keyword, and description, and it wants a file that has those headers in it. So if you prepared your file, date first column, amount second column, empty column for tax code, empty column for keywords, and then a header with descriptions and all your descriptions there, then you're ready to load that up into the tax robot. Okay. Any questions about that, or I'll move on?
No, but I'm not seeing that on my screen. Are you sharing your screen?
Yeah, I thought it was. What are you seeing on your screen?
I see a picture of you, but maybe it's user error on my part here.
No, not necessarily. Let me take a look here.
Yeah, same as mine. Your photo I've seen on my screen.
Okay, how's that? You seeing an Excel file now?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
great. Thanks for piping up. See, you guys are awesome. Thanks for helping. Okay, so what we have here is a file that has the date in the first column A, the amount in the second column, a blank column with a header for tax code, a blank column for keyword, and then a column that's headed description and down. See that format? And I'll open up that format just a little bit. It's important that when you set up your files that you manipulate them to be able to be in this format. So let's say that the bank brings it in, and when you download from the bank, it's date and then description and then amount. You'll have to move the amount column over into column B. Okay, and we can talk about that another thing. So this file is now prepared and ready to go. The other thing is it's in a .csv format. So if I look at the save as function, you'll see that it is CSV comma delimited. If it's not comma delimited, then it won't jump in there. Okay, so I'm now going to close this file. I don't have to save anything. I'm going to open up our Bookkeep It software. I'm so excited to show this to you guys. And I'm going to open up. Now let's work on each step. So as you come in, you'll see a blank screen. You might have just seen a login screen. You do your login, then you can see a blank screen. So you come up here to what they call the hamburger. I don't know, looks like, but they call them hamburgers. And take the hamburger, and what you're going to want to do is set up a client. So we're going to set up a new client. Yours won't look exactly like mine because I have administrative features that you won't have, but you'll have the client tab. Okay, and the client, we're just going to call this test. You got to give the client a name. So I'm going to call the client a test. You got to give the client an email address. So I'm going to give them an email address, and I'm push save. Okay, so it says up here change save. I now can choose this client, and I'm now operating this client, and you'll see right up here, up in the top right. See what it says there?
Yep.
It says client test, right? That means I'm operating with the client test. And now what I want to do is I want to go get a statement. So I'm going to click on statements, and it's going to be empty because I emptied all my statements today. And I'm going to get a new statement. And when I get my new statement, it's now going to give me an opportunity to put in the name. So I'm going to call it test 1. Now this is not the client name, this is the statement name. And as you're working on multiple statements with the same client, you're going to want to use different statement names. And as you get used to it, it'll be pretty obvious to you. And then I'm using Microsoft probably 10, Windows 10. So I got this little Explorer bar. I'm gonna jump in here to this Explorer bar and I'm gonna make it easy. I'm just gonna grab that file, training raw bank download, right? And I'm just gonna drag it over, bonk, and it missed. So I'm gonna do it again. I'm gonna drag it over. There it is. All right, so we can see that that file is now in the statement ready to be created, and I'm gonna push create over here on the right-hand side. PAR succeeded with up to 538 lines successful, so good for us. So now what I've got is I've got 598 lines. I showed you what they were before. I've been at the client, finished the statement. Now I'm going to go to statement tax codes. And I hope this will now blow your mind. This is the statement that we were looking at a few minutes ago on the Excel file. But you notice that statement had no tax codes and no keywords into it. What I'm going to do is I'm now going to run the tax codes. Simply click up here. And in that period of time, I'm going to expect somewhere in the neighborhood of 60% or more of the tax codes are now complete. See the tax codes put in here?
Mm-hmm.
So what it did is it matched up and it said, oh, I see a keyword of Lowe's in this file. And under this client configuration, Lowe's is recognized as materials. You know what I'm saying? I see this one has American Fence on it. Under this client configuration, American Fence is recognized as materials. And so here's what we're going to do. Let's just go ahead and sort by tax codes. And that'll show us the empty lines of tax codes first. And let's find how many empty lines we have. And we found it. Might be on 8. Nope, it went on 9. Okay, so down here on the right-hand side, it says we're in the page that's 153 to 171. Well, we're missing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So what we have is 153 plus 6 is 159 out of 597 that are not identified. So let's look at our percentage. 597, 159 plus that divided by that. 26% were not identified. So if 26, let's call it 27%. So if 27% were not identified quickly on our math, then we could identify that 27, that 73%
73%.
would have been identified. What's that? I heard somebody say something. There's a question. All right.
Not me.
Okay. All right. So I'm just excited. I don't know if you can tell, but oh my gosh, we just uploaded 597 rows. And instead of going manually like y'all did and going all that stuff we did in the first few weeks, remember that?
Right.
We configured this thing, hit a few buttons, and all but 159 were identified in an instant. That's 26% that were missed. That's 73%. I believe that we're gonna say that we're. Is that right? 26 and 73.
Yes, that's correct.
Yeah. So that's 73% that got hit in the first run through, and I haven't like this isn't a plant, right? This is just you're gonna find when you upload stuff, it's gonna hit a pretty high percentage. So that's the first thing I want to cover with you guys is why I'm so excited about the BookKeep It software. Can you see now when I say, hey, we can bill at $50 an hour or more, why we can do that? Because we can automate 60, 70, 80% of the process. Now, what can't we automate? Well, clearly I'm not going to be able to automate checks. I'm going to have to ask the client where their checks are, get their information from them, right? But let's show something else. You see how they've got state trailers here? Right? See that? That's got something state trailers on it. Now, I don't happen to know what state trailers is, but let's go ahead and create a tax code for state trailers anyway. And all I have to do, I'm going to put an edit here, and I'm going to say that the keyword is state. Keyword is state trailer. Right? Does that look right? Straight trailer. Okay. And the tax code I'm going to put in there is going to be Larry. Okay. And now what happens is I'm going to save this And now I've created an entire new keyword search that will identify the tax code as Larry, and I rerun the program again, and it has now remembered everything that has state trailer in it is now going to be identified as Larry. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to prove that to
Wow.
you by trying to find something called Larry. I'm not sure exactly how I'm going to do that, but oh, I know. We got a little search function. Let's do this. We're going to look for Larry. Go. And there they are. So state trailers, everything state trailer came up Larry. See that?
Nice.
So the tax code is now Larry. So my point being, folks, is that what we can do, we upload the statement, and in a short period of time, we get 50, 60, 70% hits. Now, you still need to go through and take a look and make sure that your hits match what is intuitively correct, right? You want to make sure that there's not something messed up. But then as you start finishing out the rest of the client's accounting, you're going to be able to identify in batches keywords and tax codes that will make sense to you, right? And I called it Larry just to keep it out of the mess of the rest of the file. But this would be a tax code that would be like trailer rental or equipment rental or equipment repairs. It'd be, you follow what I'm saying? The tax code would be in truth something like that. But I don't want to mingle. I don't want to mess up the other repairs and equipment tax codes I already have. So what I've created now is a client-specific, keyword-driven new tax code that if it's got state trailer, it's going to then identify that tax code as Larry. So what happens is by the time you're done with this client, you're going to have 100% of all their entries identified. Probably 90% or more are going to be keyword driven if you just do what I just did. So next month you come and you download their statement, or next quarter you come and download their statement. What's going to happen is your software is going to have learned and remembered the old keywords, any corrected keywords, and the new keywords, so that now you're at 80, 90% success rate. And over time, the only thing, there will be a few, right? You're always going to run into Walmart. I have no idea what the guy bought at Walmart. We'll just have to ask. I have no idea what they bought at Costco, right? And I have no idea what's on their checks. So there's a few items you'll always have to do by hand, but it takes, we just took almost 600 rows of code and turned it out, 73% of it turned it out in 4 minutes, 5 minutes by the time we configured everything. That's what I want to cover tonight. Try to keep things really short so people can review it and they don't feel like they're digging through a whole lot. So tonight's all about how to upload statements and how to make a correction a single time so that you can identify tax codes and keywords that would then grow with you. Any other questions about that?
And Larry, are the tax codes already entered in here automatically?
Yeah, we've got about we've got about 600 keywords already identified, and with that, I don't know, it's probably 40, 50, 60 tax codes. Now I'm using the word tax codes. Other people, and we've covered this in another thing, but I'll just do it again. Some people call them chart of accounts. To me, it's a code that represents a tax-related attribute that the tax accountant who prepares the tax return would go and say, "Oh, that makes sense to me." This isn't like the IRS tax code that has section 14447.6. That's not what we're doing. We're just creating a code in the software that helps us to identify what area of accounting we think that this is associated with for tax purposes. But really good question. Really good question. So are you enthused?
That's exciting.
It's exciting. Right. And so
because I've done the whole, line by line. So
exactly. Right.
It's painful.
So one of the gals earlier on, she's like, look, I've got an accounting degree. I've got a bachelor's in business degree, and there's no way you're making $50 an hour. And I'm like, tee-hee-hee, yes, we are. And this is how, because we've got a software system that really cuts a lot of corners. Now, the other thing I like about the software is that it's very, very, very transparent. And from a teaching and a utilization standpoint, let me go back to normal here. And from a teaching and utilization standpoint, it's just so much easier when we can look at things like a spreadsheet. See, it's completely transparent. You know that you've got something from a Seattle Amazon. Oh, there's another one. We're never getting Amazon. I mean, but here's the point. Let's say you do. So I've got a client that I'm not talking about my clients. So let's pretend we've got a client who's in the pest control business, right? And they've got fairly decent discipline about the way they spend money, and so they only swipe their credit card or debit card specifically for their pest control business. And so I know that there's small pest control. I know there's small purchases on Amazon, and they've already told me, look, anything under about $50 is going to be chemicals, and between $50 and $200 is going to be equipment. They don't buy any tools on Amazon. Okay, great. So in that case, then I know that we're generally going to be tools and equipment on Amazon, in which case I don't then have to ask them on a one-by-one basis. I just send the report out and say, hey, is this appropriate? Do you think we're there? So there are time periods when you can identify with a pretty high degree of accuracy things like Amazon, or things like some of the generics, Amazon, Walmart, and the Sam's Club and Costco, depending on what your client's specific spending habits are. Now, we're not doing anything here at all that's involved with the income accounting, right? This is all expenses. And why is because most of our target clients don't need separate income accounting. They lump it all together. So they got $68,241 in income. We just leave it. We don't have to account for that as far as which client that came from when. That's not our client. Our client is the one that doesn't need that type of accounting, but needs tax-related accounting to save them money at the end of the year. Okay, now here's the next magic sauce I just absolutely love. So what have we done so far? I've showed you how to prepare a file, make it a CSV, put it in the form that the robot likes to eat, which was date first, and then the amount, and then the tax code, and then right. We did that. And then we set up the client, and then we loaded it into the Bookkeep It robot, and then we ran the tax codes, and it hit like 70 some percent. All right, let's assume that you're all done. You remember summing all those things? Remember going through and adding up all those things we did in the first week?
Yes.
Done.
Oh, wow.
Oh, wow. Good. Go, Debbie. Done. All right, there it is. Right, there's the Larrys. Oh, goodly. See? So they spent $513 on that Larry category that we just created. Isn't that awesome? Right? So this is a little wide. It's just the way the software is pulling out. But when we export this, this just becomes the beginning of a profit and loss statement. It's boom, it becomes your profit and loss statement. Just very, very, very quick. Oh, I'm just so excited about it. So what do we do tonight? We set up software, showed you how to bring it in from, we started out with a file that looks like this, right? Made sure it was date, amount, tax code, keyword, and description. Made sure it was a CSV file. Then we went over and we created a client. We logged in, created a client, made sure that we're operating the client, showed you how to test it up here above. And then we said, well, let's go get that statement. We went to the statement, we went new, dropped it in, and it automatically came in once we did the new. Then we clicked on it, said, yep, let's use it. It said, yep, I got 598 lines of code for you. And then we went to the statement codes. We hit the run tax codes, and it hit 73% matches. And then I showed you on a match that was not, on something that wasn't matched, how that you could just select your own keywords and your own tax codes, and it would remember it. And so you'd anticipate going forward every single month that you wouldn't have to do that again. It would just remember it over and over. One of the discipline habits I want to remind you is you want to make sure that if you are creating your own keywords or your tax codes, make sure your keywords especially are keywords that are unique, because you don't want them getting messy and going off someplace else and identifying things you don't want them to. And that's one of the reasons we've got about 600 keywords identified, is because we're looking for really unique keywords, and we can continue to build it over time, I suppose. And then your tax codes, the thing with the tax codes is it just needs to make sense to your tax preparer. You don't have to be relying upon IRS information, that kind of stuff. And it needs to be a communication between your client and the tax preparer that just makes sense. And typically the more detailed, the better. Okay. And then we did that. We ran the tax codes, and we came over here, we hit sum, and the sum statement came up. And now what we'd be ready to do is hit an action item, and I'm going to download that as I'll just drop it in an Excel file anyway. I'm downloading an Excel file. It's done. These are now my sums in an Excel file, and I'm now ready to I'm now ready to format all these sums into a profit and loss statement. So I'll just take these out. Control new. Paste. I didn't really want those in there. Okay, and then service income 63 to 44. Sum equals sum. Something got tapped twice. No, that's fine. That's fine. Somebody else put your mic on mute. Okay, so what I've done here, I've got basically a profit and loss. So I could say test client, profit and loss, 1/1/21 to 5/1/21. I think I got too many dashes in there. Profit and loss 1/1/21 to 5/1/21. There's my income. Here's all my expenses, and there's a sum of income and expenses. There's a sum of expenses. I better put some expenses, some expense, and let's do net income plus that minus that. Okay, so this would be perfectly acceptable to send over to your client. They just need to be able to review it. They need to be able to see it. If I get this as a tax preparer and I can see what's going on, I'm perfectly happy with it. Now, of course, $126,000 still needs to be identified. I don't want a blank there. But I mean, as far as the formats and stuff, when you finish up your accounting, you format something out here that's test client, has their name on it, profit and loss, what are the dates, their type of income, what's service income. I guess I misspelled it. Don't want to misspell, looks unprofessional. Made up 632,446, categorized each one of their expense categories. They ended up with $243,000 that we summed out from all those expenses, and the net income is $389,301. If I got this as a tax preparer, I'd be perfectly fine. Okay, so I'm excited. Now let me tell you what's going on. You guys have free access to this software for, I believe, at least 60 days, and I think we're going to be able to do it for 90 days for everybody. But I've got to get an access agreement off to you. And so it becomes in your benefit to send me an email so I know who's looking for it. I'll try to get you guys prompts up on the Facebook site, Bookkeep It Facebook site. And we need to get you it's free, but we still have to have you in agreement so that, you know, legal liabilities and all that kind of stuff. So we'll get you an agreement to use the software. You won't have any charge for it for a few months, and then we'll use that moving forward in our training. So the training is basically going to be, the beginning part was talking about what the manual bookkeeping process looks like. We're done with that. We're now moving into the robotic bookkeeping process, how to use the software. And then the other component we're going to look at is going to be things like you know, tax training itself, understanding which ones these tax accounts are, and we'll do quite a bit on marketing. And so for some of you that want to build out your practice, we're going to teach you how to build out a practice and start developing your own clients. And that's the expectation, is that you will actually be developing your own clients now while you're in the free phase, et cetera, and I'll be available on Tuesday nights, et cetera, to do mentoring and such. So any questions or comments at this point?
So are you in beta testing with this right now?
The software?
Or, yeah.
Yeah. That's one of the reasons it's free.
Okay.
Yeah. And so if you guys get into some glitches or something, let us know. And I'm still working with the developer and such to give them feedback and such so they can get things cleaned up.
Okay.
Okay. Well, that's what I have for this evening, and I'm just excited. So I'll be posting some information on the Bookkeep It Facebook site. I'll probably send an email out as well, and we'll figure out a way to get you guys to sign on. It'll basically your name and address and identifiers onto a onto a short. I think it's like about a 2-page agreement on the use of the software. Again, there's no charge for the software for the next couple of months, and if you don't want to keep using it, don't. It's no obligation. But
Do you know
it's
what the
it's
range
good.
is going to be?
I'm hearing discussion right now is going to be like $17 a month for one company with like 3 accounts, and like $37 or $47 a month for a pro bookkeeper that wants multiple accounts.
Okay.
So, and then I just heard that QuickBooks jacked up their rates again. A lot of my accounting peers are trying to figure out how to jump ship. So this is kind of very timely for people. Okay. All right, guys. Well, that's all I had for tonight. I'm so excited. And thanks for joining me. If you don't have any more questions, I'll just sign off.
Thanks, Larry. Sounds good.
Thanks, guys. Bye-bye.
Thanks, Larry. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.